guys, my name is Lelasophia. I am an artist and fine jewelry designer. If you like contemporary fine jewelry, if you like luxury handbags, all things interiors, and I have some fun videos for you. You guys, today I am so excited. This is an excuse to show you a new piece that I literally just added into my collection yesterday, the day before. I have been obsessing over the idea, I think probably always in my little collecting career, but I've truly been obsessing over the idea of not only finding really cool niche, I don't know, off the beaten path pieces, and now I have this whole kind of new iteration, a niche within the niche, if you will, because I'm not ridiculous, of finding vintage references of bags now that I'm obsessing over and going for the originals instead. First and foremost, if you guys are new here, thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait to see you in all of my future videos. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram at lelasophia jewelry. I put out videos 3 days a week, and so I cannot wait to see you guys in the next one. Okay, let's just go ahead into the piece that I literally just got. I am obsessed with it. And then it's like I'm not impulsive, but I just see something in my brain and I literally can barely even go another second without, you know, putting it into reality, how do you say that? Putting it into fruition, having it, anyways, we know what I'm trying to say. Once I have an idea in my head, it's gonna happen. So essentially, she just got a little DIY facelift right before this video, like quite literally, I don't know, 20 minutes before filming this. You guys, I just got, in my opinion, one of the most iconic, gorgeous little vintage Prada satin evening like tote bag pieces. And I don't know why. Again, same thing as like this little tiny mini velvet Prada dust bag, barely fits anything bag that I got a year ago, something like that. These little things bring me so much joy. So like, you know what? I don't even feel bad, okay? She will never be stopping. It's the hunt, it's the search. And then when it comes to your doorstep, even better than what you thought it was gonna be. So yeah, I don't know if anybody cares as much as I do, but this is my new little vintage Prada baby. It's my second Prada bag in my collection. Come through diversifying the portfolio. What does Jeremiah call it? Oh, his investment portfolio, love it. Come through to diversifying my investment portfolio. Okay, we love that from me. Story time. Are we ready for this? I'm doing better because I wanted to just show you the actual piece without too much anticipation. And now ready for the story time. I, as per usual, and I think probably during my video I said this, there's always 2 pieces for me. This has been the theme for a very long time. There's always 2 pieces from the Rose brand new seasonal collections that I'm like, oh my gosh, and I debate between. I can literally go back years and tell you what each one of those 2 pieces are, and then I have to hunt and search and figure it out. And usually I go for one, I'm not gonna lie, you know? I got a couple pieces from the row every year. This last year has been particularly indulgent, the last 3 years. And this summer 2025, isn't that crazy? Summer 2025 collection was absolutely no exception. Okay, and my #1 bag from the Rose 2025 bag collection was the Cecily. And I actually really liked both styles, and here's where the story time gets very interesting. I really liked both styles. I liked the bigger one and I liked the smaller one. The smaller one is much smaller than this actually, but much more similar. It's literally just a tote bag, one singular pocket shape. And the larger one, oh my God, my one friend is gonna know exactly what I'm gonna say. The larger one is like their new twin bag and has 2 pockets. And I literally, since that collection dropped, I'd been so obsessed. And then I was like, it's such a simple bag, Sophia. We're not gonna be spending $1,000, $1,200, whatever the difference between the smaller and the larger one are. Just let it go. I let it go. And then I was kind of obsessed with the imaging, and everybody was saying that one was really weird and interesting. And so essentially I kind of let it go. I let it out of my brain for a couple weeks. You know, it's not even a month yet, but for a few weeks I was like, okay, we have more pressing things that we're saving for, bags that are actually on my wish list. This would just be something fun. And she went out of my brain, okay? And then I started And then a couple things happened. Actually, this happened after, but I started seeing her in outfit pics and I was like, it's even better than I thought, okay? It's one of those bags that so many bags from the row, I tell people all of the time, I just told my sister-in-law, they look very simple on product images, online. I think this probably even happened to me like 10 years ago when my mom was very into, you know, was first getting into the row. She still is, we still both are. The story time is already getting long. I'm so sorry, let me wrap it up. At first, you're kind of like, oh, that's a cute, simple bag. And then something magical happens when you put any bag, or in my opinion, many bags, I'll say at least, up against yourself from the row. And all of a sudden they like come to life. And that's what I think a major part of the beauty and the magic, honestly, is with the row bags, because the second you put it up against yourself, you're like, oh, they really thought this through so deeply, intentionally. And I think that something like the Cecily is the most perfect example, because you're like, okay, yes, she's a simple chic satin evening bag. And I saw her on the red carpet first and I already knew, of course, literally, her handle is this, but it's like, in my opinion too, Lauren Santo Domingo. And I already knew, like, from the little blip of the Vogue streaming, you know, live stream thing that they had, I was like, that's the Cecily. And yeah, it had literally released that day and I was like, oh, I know exactly what bag this is. This is insane. You know what, maybe I'm to that level of fandom, and I said I was gonna make it quick, I'm so sorry. Okay, so essentially we fell in love. And then all of a sudden, for a couple weeks, I was like, let me do a reverse Google image search, and that's my new thing, and that's what this whole video low-key is spurred by. I said, let me do a little Google image search, okay? And all of a sudden things popped up, and I said, hallelujah, I am getting a vintage satin evening tote bag. And it seemed like vintage Prada was definitely in the room with Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen and the whole design team, okay? Because the references are so beautiful and so strong. And this one reference image, I know, which I think I did a really good job of compromising, but this one reference image, I was like, this is the bag. Like, they just took the tassels off. It is exactly, almost to a T, different proportions. Actually, it's nice. I don't know what I would prefer, I guess. Let me not say that, but the handles are a little bit different. Maybe I like the length on the row. Cecily handles a bit more, but essentially I think that, in my humble opinion, however, allegedly, I would imagine that there were a couple of these original little vintage Prada black satin tote evening bag styles on a mood board, or 8 mood boards, okay? And I found this one that was a double, oh my God, obsessed. And I was just doing my insane looking, hunting, searching thing, and I was debating between this one and the double pocket version with tassels. I sound so dramatic, I'm aware. Listen, I'm a dramatic type of person, okay? I call it passion, but many people might call it drama. So I literally was 40 seconds, no joke, away from being like, okay, I'm not gonna go for this one. I really want the 2-pocket one. It was a couple $100 more. It was like $300. This one was $100. And I said, we're gonna splurge. Literally, I opened the Farfetch app and it had sold. And I was like, I swear I was looking at this 40 minutes ago. And so that one, I'm sure, went to a home that is perfect and so much more meant to be than this one was to me. And so my, you know, devastated little self turned around immediately and bought this one. And here's where the story time will end, I promise. The funniest thing is that, and also where the DIY comes into the chat, this one had, insert photo here, these little like plastic lucite, not really lucite, let's call them what they are, these little plastic flowers, 4 of them. And I was like, this is so not me. This is absolutely not me. However, I'm buying this because there was also a deal. It was like, I think $102, literally, plus shipping, plus tax, plus everything. And I was like, Sophia, this would be ridiculous if you didn't. Go for it. You just saw how sad you were that the other one sold. You will find a way. And so the second after I bought this, because I needed to make sure nobody else snatched it up, I started looking for tassels. And I said, you know what? I'll just turn the bag around and have a little tassel moment inspired by, would not have thought about it, inspired by the other vintage Prada one that you guys saw an image of. And this is why things are just like so meant to be, because I was just thinking of regular tassels that is like a trend and everybody has in their bags these days. I feel like that was with the Row Idaho, like people started putting tassels on their bags, and now it's become a whole thing in our little the Row obsessed world, in my opinion, I think. And then I found this little tassel. I believe it is a Chinese inspired little tassel. If somebody knows, because I really would not like to say the wrong thing and misname it. So if anybody knows what this is called, please comment down below. I found this and I was like, perfect, something different. We know me, I want to be a little different. And I'm so glad. And at first I hung it from the back of the bag, which is pretty perfect. And I had the little flowers on here. And I asked my dear friend Moon, who I talk about now in every single video, I asked my friend Moon, who just graduated from FIT, I was like, girl, would I ruin the bag if I just cut the flowers off? And she was like, no, it'll be fine. The thread came out totally fine. And then little did I know, I think you could maybe even almost see it right there. The thread was fine, but I didn't even realize, probably of the decades of wear, the flowers themselves kind of wore down the satin. And I said, we are not gonna let this stop us. I'm gonna put this little tassel in the center. So I just sewed it onto the center, and you guys probably didn't care or need to know about that at all. But essentially what I'm saying is now I am so much more happy with this than I think I even would be with the Row. And listen, I'm never gonna stop buying the Row probably. However, for sometimes when you know something is like either out of your price range or doesn't, like, you don't need to splurge on it or need to get the $1,000 version of it, there's probably a vintage reference in there. And maybe even a vintage reference will inspire you for another edition or fun article added to the bag. And so this is mine. Exhibit A of how insane, like, this just brings me so much joy, okay? This whole last hour that I've been staring at her, this brings me so much joy. It's so soft. I didn't even show you the inside. I put another dust bag in here because she needs a little bit of work on the shape. And then just like, you can see the little Prada logo on the inside, and a lot of other references were really cute, but had the Prada logo on the outside. And I was like, this is why this is meant to be. Yes, the double pocket tasseled one would have been really cute, but I am thrilled with this one. And again, probably talked for way too long that you did not need to hear, but this is my little success story of going for a vintage reference. If you guys have been following me, but just in case you have not been and are new here, I have to show you, because this is the 5th time, not in this last year, but in the last 2 years, let's say, that I've done something like this, really loved a style shape of a bag, and then been like, but could I find the vintage reference? And I think it's something that I'm gonna start doing more. Exhibit A, again, let's say Exhibit B, okay? This I just unboxed 2 months ago, and when I tell you, I'm so grateful that I found this, because I was obsessing over both the Hermes and the Victoria Beckham. Honestly, I kind of like the Victoria Beckham one more. So good for us, price-wise. I was obsessing over the really skinny trunk bags that aren't even released yet. They will be released in the fall. And I said, this has to be some sort of vintage reference. I'm just all of a sudden realizing, because of my fine jewelry background, I realized that so many, it's because of my fine jewelry background and me being a designer, all I do all day is stare at references and gain inspo from, especially when I was first starting my brand, from ancient and antique and vintage jewelry. And I know that that must happen too in every other design period and aspect, and in the design world in many different iterations rather. And because I liked those two styles so much, I said to myself, I need to find this. And again, probably did a reverse Google, or however you say that, a Google image search of the Victoria Beckham one or the Hermes one. I can't remember, maybe I did both, and did a little hunting searching thing. And it gave me the present of all presents, this gorgeous vintage Fendi little tiny trunk bag. You just have to see the logo, because like, how cute is it? Getting it? Okay, there we go, hopefully. This little tiny thing, I mean, my God, I'm obsessed. This is just so iconic. I'm literally going to an art opening tonight, and I'll have to debate between which little satin bag. I was thinking of wearing this until I just added that silly little tassel onto the Prada one, and it might need to be that one. Things like this, it's just, you can tell when something has an old world feel to it, and I'm so glad that I checked. Another one that I didn't think of, but again, thank God to Google image searching, is this vintage python pouch, because you guys know, or a lot of you know, I've been obsessing and have, you know, I've owned many a Daniel Lee era for Bottega Veneta pouch bag in my day. Yes, some of them have gone on to new homes. You know, I've recycled. I've been doing a lot of recycling lately. However, the Python pouch has never gotten out of my brain, and I almost, for Christmas, was like, should I just buy this? One came onto the Real Real. I was obsessed with it, and ironically enough, this also came from the Real Real, and I let that one go. I just was like, I just don't know. I sold my other pouch bag. Am I gonna want a 2022, whatever, however much it was, $2,200 pouch, Python pouch from Daniel Lee, or should I get, you know, the Rose Sophia bag? I'm very happy with my choice if you can't tell. And then look, I ended up with both bags. At the end of the day, this one was like $75 or $80, however, and she is genuine Python and the exact color. Yes, the top is very worn. Listen, it didn't really show that in the images as well. The top is very worn, but this color in general is very much so what I like in a Python pouch. And so, like, you know, I just saved my girl math. I just saved myself like $2,100. Be a little creative in these examples, okay? Because in this example of this tiny cute little Fendi, I know, I crack myself up. I'm ridiculous. In this tiny little Fendi cylinder vanity pencil case, okay? Let's call it what it is. I got this because I was obsessed. I still am, but I'm obsessed nonetheless with the Miu Miu little, I don't even know, it doesn't have a good name. I think it's literally just called the suede or Nappa leather pouch. Very exciting, Miu Miu. Okay, get better at our names. However, nonetheless, the bag is adorable and I loved that. And I was like, again, do I need the $1,200, $1,300 version one, or can I find a vintage tube bag that's going to satisfy me? And you know what? It absolutely has. Last example, okay, because of a bag that actually was even more successful that I could have just, oh, look at me. I honestly did not even plan this. This is a bag that I kind of failed, meaning I failed because I did buy the one that I really wanted, the newer version that was clearly a vintage reference, and I failed. And that bag didn't work as well for me, and I actually just sold it, and I should have just gone with this one and been happy with this. But I got this gorgeous, yummy clasp vintage lizard bag right before, like quite literally the week of. I know, that was crazy. It was a big Christmas that year for myself. Treated myself quite heavily, let's say. I was dying for the Celine clasp bag and I couldn't find a color. It had kind of just gotten repopularized again because Phoebe had just opened her new line. Everybody was obsessing over old Celine. And so the prices were much higher 2 years ago. They were a lot more rare. I would say a bit more rare, between a bit and between a lot more rare. And so I just was having a hard time, and literally same thing. Did a Google image search. This came up and I was like, I think this was $70. I can't remember. It was between $60 and $100, but I think it was something like 70. And is this the right one that was even less? I don't know. It was just tens of dollars. Anything under 100, I'm like, I really probably have some sort of a problem because I'm like, add to cart. For a vintage genuine lizard bag, duh, it's in my color. We know me, loves a brown bag. I got it, became so obsessed that at just the right place and the right time, I got the craziest offer for the Celine clasp bag. And so I bought it. Never wore it. And the entire time it was in my collection, I wore it once. And that was barely, I wore it out to dinner. So she, you know, sat under the table the entire time. This one, however, it's a bit softer. The edges are a bit more fluid and I love it. And this I've worn much more. She's a really good going out to dinner bag. Yes, her handle's a bit wonky, okay? She's literally 100 years old. I did the research. And so very good example. After this, I've done a good job at hopefully trying to satisfy myself with a vintage reference. This video is not to say only get vintage bags from now on. That in some way that they're cooler and more niche and more special. They're not at all. I'm still going to buy new from store current season bags, but if something is in your brain, but you don't want to splurge on it, don't want to spend it, or maybe you're happy to spend, however, too many people have it, or you want something that's a bit different, or in some way it doesn't quite work for you. Similarly with the row, I was like, okay, these are probably too teeny tiny. I can't remember, but I think I'm pretty positive the Prada is like an inch at least bigger on all sides. And so whatever it is, for some reason in your gut, if you are not pulling the trigger, if you don't want to go for something, sometimes there are vintage references, and we have so much access today to so many different channels of purchasing these really rare, insane, this antique to vintage to new to archival, whatever pieces. And so a cute little Google search will give you a lot. Thank you guys as always for watching. This especially, I really cannot wait to hear your thoughts. What do you think of my new little Prada? I love her. Yes, I think I'm gonna wear her tonight. I can't wait to hear your thoughts, and I cannot wait to see you in my next one. Bye guys.